Hi everyone, this is Sarah, and today I want to talk to you about solar plexus. Now, the reason that I think that understanding our solar plexus is so important is that if you're interested in emotional balance, in coaching, in self-development, in health, in physical fitness, then you really want to have an insight into the role that your solar plexus plays in all of these things. And our solar plexus, from an emotional perspective, actually effectively monitors the basic human desire to exercise control over things that are, guess what, beyond our control. So our sense of motivation, our sense of power or empowerment is all linked to the solar plexus. And it also governs our physical power, literally our physical strength, our health, our metabolism, our energy levels, our strength of will or motivation, and our ability to control our thoughts. Now, if you've listened to my other recordings, you'll know that really to achieve whatever we want, we've got to keep weeding out any unhelpful thoughts, beliefs, any old values which no longer serve us, and any unhelpful emotional energy. So, guess what? Much of that energy is stored in the solar plexus. So when we are operating on a cleared solar plexus, we have a greater ability to focus our thoughts on what we want and to exclude any negative thoughts or unhelpful thoughts. So where is this solar plexus, this source of power? So it's located right below the diaphragm. And it's also known as Manipura, or the yellow chakra. So let's just talk for a minute about emotions that relate to this. Now, when I'm running NLP training, I always tell people that our solar plexus is the emotional bucket. So over time and over many years of experience, we tend to gather emotions into that emotional bucket. And obviously, if we are repeating empowering patterns, then that's helping that energy center to flow easily. If in our emotional bucket we're collecting a lot of unhelpful emotions or negative emotional experiences, that is actually slowing the energy flow. Or it may well be underactive, because this is how energy centers work. They either tend to be underactive or they tend to be overactive. So, you have heard the phrase that fear is paralyzing. Well, interestingly enough, our solar plexus often is underactive when we are bogged down with fear. Whereas actually, when we're overactive, we might feel too powerful. We might actually be a little bit over ego operating. And really, as we know, we don't delete fear. What we do is we reach inside ourselves and we find courage to overcome it. And that in turn builds our self-assurance, it builds our self-confidence, it helps us teach us that we can manage life in motion, life in flow. So, there is no great surprise if you've ever worked with a personal trainer. They will tell you that the key to physical fitness is strengthening your core. Interesting term, isn't it? Core. And that's because our core muscles manage our energy center, our solar plexus. So, even just from a breathing perspective, when our diaphragm or our abdomen muscles are tight and we're unable to relax them if they're over-operating, our breath doesn't actually reach our core or our solar plexus. What's more, the breath that we breathe in is actually designed to energize and massage our internal organs. So if we're blocking the flow of that with our diaphragm or our abdomen, we are shallow breathing. And as you will all, every single person on the planet, I'm sure, has experienced panic. We shallow breathe when we're doing fear and panic. And that's because we aren't allowing all of our breath to get into our internal organs or pass beyond our diaphragm. Now, the ultimate in mind control, mental control, I guess you might call it psychokinesis. Some people call it telekinesis, the ability to move things with our mind. And for most of us, the idea of being able to move a physical object with mind intention is impossible. And yet, with a constant mind training, actually what we're doing is we're aligning with the vibration of the object, and eventually, when we are so focused, it is possible to use our energy and the alignment of that energy to move the object. Now, whether or not you believe that is true or possible is completely irrelevant. What you will be able to relate to is your understanding of the sacrum, which is that bone that sits in between our hip bones in our pelvis. And this is the fulcrum of our body. And you'll notice with any yoga moves, we are always trying to use our sacrum to balance our body. Our entire body weight can be lifted up from our sacrum. If you've ever seen anyone lying on the floor with their legs in the air, then actually they can hold somebody on their sacrum. And this very much relates to the solar plexus, because this is where our core energy center is. Now, let's just talk about the internal organs that the solar plexus rules. So the solar plexus rules the stomach, the liver, the gallbladder, and the adrenal glands. Now, when we have a challenge with our adrenal system, I'm sure you've heard of adrenal fatigue or adrenal exhaustion, this is an element of fear. Because guess what happens? Our adrenals add on top of our renals, our kidneys, and when we do fight or flight mode, our adrenal glands activate. Now, if we are operating fear a lot of the time, then our adrenal glands get really tired because they're operating all the time, and they're really not meant to, because actually our adrenals are triggered by our lizard brain, and actually they help us in survival mode. You know, if we're being hunted, or let's say, I don't know, thousands of years ago we were being chased by a lion or something, or a hairy mammoth, then that lizard brain is going, hey, 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 we need the extra boost of power from our adrenal glands. And you may even have experienced this yourself. When you're terrified, suddenly you have a lot more energy to run a lot faster, or you have a lot more energy to move physical objects with your strength. Now, let's have a look at the liver and the gallbladder. The emotions that relate to the liver are anger, and the gallbladder relates to rage. Brings a whole new meaning to the concept of having gallstones, doesn't it? I mean, if you've ever experienced that, you'll know how painful it is, and it'll make you think, wow, I really would like to find a more productive way to express my anger and to release it from my body. Okay, and the stomach obviously is the beginning of our ability to digest our world. So this also can relate to fear. So here what we've got with our solar plexus is that when it's really overactive, you'll notice a lot of anger and rage and frustration in your behavior. And when it's underactive, you're going to notice some fear response in your behavior. Interestingly enough, in Chinese medicine, they call the liver the throne of anger. And it's interesting because the liver works in our body to cleanse toxic energy or toxic substances, same really. So if our liver isn't working properly, or if our liver is overworked, maybe it's time for a liver cleanse. And just juicing and liver cleansing can also help to ease and flow out old anger that we've been holding on to. So, imbalance in the solar plexus obviously creates emotional issues, which we've talked about. It also creates energy issues because this is our core power source. So if you've ever experienced chronic fatigue or adrenal exhaustion, this is coming from an imbalance in the solar plexus. Equally, it can also cause hyperactivity. So, for me, and by the way, I don't have knowledge about this, so I'm just talking openly with you about questions in my head. ADHD, has our society created more ADHD through imbalance in the solar plexus? Have we created more adrenal fatigue through imbalance in the solar plexus? So any kind of unhelpful or harmful feelings can be the greatest physical toxin we hold in our body because obviously it's energy. We're also made of about 70% water. So if we have toxic energy flowing through all of our fluid systems, this is really, really unhelpful. Other behavioral challenges that also relate to the solar plexus are addiction, power, and guess what? The need to control, because the need to control is triggered by fear. When we are terrified, the first thing our brain is trying to do is get everything under control. When we feel like we're in chaos, rather than flowing, we go, oh, stop the flow, we need to get under control. It's a normal response. And this isn't just about chakras and yoga and energy centers and health, because you only have to look at martial arts and the Dan Tien. In martial arts, we're taught that everything comes from stillness. So movement comes from stillness. And the reason they understand this is they understand the cyclical flow of energy. And that movement and stillness are polarities of one another on the same scale. Okay? So when we're doing movement, this always happens within our body. If we're trying to achieve something or set an intention, this happens in our minds. So in martial arts, there's a deep and inherent understanding that our power comes from awareness in the body. And if you're a yogi, you'll understand that obviously this Eastern philosophy of martial arts also translates very beautifully into Vedantic yoga, being present in your body. This is where our power comes from. So, in both of these systems, we also learn that deep belly breathing naturally massages our internal organs. And if there's tension anywhere in our core, whether you want to call it your abdomen or your diaphragm, it stops the flow of energy because your breath cannot pass. So the dantien is your power balance, it's your point of equilibrium, and effectively it's your sacrum. And it's this equilibrium point is always what we're working towards. We're always working towards balance. We have no desire for over energy. We have no desire for under energy. And the point is that your unique point of balance is yours. And you have to experience it through feeling and sensation. So here's the thing. If we're blocking our emotions, if we're turning away from our emotions, if we're imagining that feeling our emotions is just going to be too painful, it's really hard to find our equilibrium, because obviously we aren't feeling our way, we aren't sensing our way. Okay? So the first step of this, finding our balance, is to actually learn to feel our feelings and to experience them in sensation. We want to know where we feel that energy in our body. We want to know what thoughts associate with that energy. And we can only do this when we're fully present. We can only do this when we're open to saying, wow, how am I feeling? Okay, wow, that's interesting. Has any thought triggered that? And rather than going on a long journey to find out why I'm feeling this, which can tie us up in knots. For any of you who work with me, you know I say, who cares why? Let's look at where we are now. Okay? So you've got to feel your emotions. This emotional bucket can be emptied, because who needs any negative emotion that we've carried from childhood? Who needs that? I mean, that kind of energy is really stuck energy. So we can do that with all sorts of work. And, you know, there are many tools to fit the workman. It could be emotional release work, it could be health work, it could be yoga, it could be martial arts. The point is, it's an intention to release old, stuck emotional energy. Now, along with emotional energy, we also have childhood values and beliefs which often don't serve us in adult life. These are also energy. So, however we do it, through belief release, through coaching, through EFT, through kinesiology, through acupuncture, it doesn't matter how you choose to do it. It's about having the intention to release unhelpful emotions, to release unhelpful beliefs, and to release unhelpful values. Now, the really cool thing about life is that when we are in the present moment, when we are open to feeling our emotions, when we are present enough to hear the thoughts that come into our mind, and when we're present enough to really notice the external feedback we're getting. I'm not necessarily referring to what people are saying to us, although that's also an indicator. I'm referring more to your circumstances. What are you attracting? Okay, what are you creating in your external world? Because we create who we are rather than what we want. Because the creation comes from our core energy center. And if we've got a load of stuck emotions, stuck values, stuck beliefs, just blocking the energy flow, we're going to create that because we attract what we are. So it's about saying, okay, whatever I'm getting back is a bit of a gift, because think of it as a shortcut. Think of it as the quickest way to go, ooh, do I believe that? Maybe I want to work on releasing that belief. Wow, what's my value system around this situation? What am I focusing on? And for example, if you're working and working and working and working and working, and you aren't getting, I don't know, the results you want, and you might measure those, I don't know, happiness, financial, love, relationship, whatever it is, you can ask yourself, okay, do I have a fear of loss of love? Do I people please? Do I have a fear of poverty? And you can really start to use that feedback as a guide, because all of us, are trained to imagine that we don't have a map of life. It's just that when we're in the present, we are given a map in every energetic moment, in every life experience, in life in motion. So if we take that feedback and we go, oh, okay, so I'm having an anger response to that. What is it about this experience? What do I believe about this experience? What have I created here? And what is it I want to release? And then we set the intention to release, and we do whatever work. And what I mean by that is we go out, we reach and find support from others. And whether that is a variety of different emotional well-being techniques, health techniques, fitness techniques, whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's about the intention to let go. And let's just talk about fear for a minute, because when we have fear, we truly believe there is no choice. The thing is, we do have a choice, because we are the ones that choose to stop the energy flow or start the energy flow. And often when we're scared, we stop the energy flow because we imagine that, well, if nothing happens, that's better than something bad happening, because we're focused on what we don't want rather than what we do want. So there is always choice, and there is always flow, and we always choose to either stop the flow or start the flow. We also tend to limit ourselves in our thinking, in our being, in our doing, in our having, when our solar plexus is unbalanced or blocked. And obviously if it's blocked, it's unbalanced. So if you want to work with your solar plexus with purpose, if you are really serious about creating what you want in your world, and by the way, this could just be as simple as creating a happy daily life, which in my model of the world is success, then we've got to work with our solar plexus. It's your energy core. Maybe learn martial arts, maybe do yoga, do gymnastics, whatever is interesting for you, whatever you're passionate about, find a way to work on the flow of your physical core and to find the fulcrum, the balance point, the equilibrium of flow for you. And we do this in several ways. We notice the thoughts and feelings inside. These are our internal indicators, and we have to be present to notice them. Be open to receiving the feedback messages from the outside. Again, we have to be present to notice them. We've got to feel those feelings in the moment that they occur in order to be able to understand what's going on and trigger our curiosity. So feel gratitude towards those external messages. Whatever you're creating in life, go, wow, that is so not what I want. Thank you so much for showing me right up in my face. Accept the feedback, feel gratitude, and then decide what you're going to do about it. Take action. Act on those messages with curiosity. Ask yourself, what do I believe in the context of this? What are my values in the context of this? What emotions am I feeling, and what do I want to release? Another really useful thing to do is to develop a sense of humor about all of this. When we take ourselves really seriously, that's often ego-driven, by the way, but when we take ourselves really seriously, which is possible when we're feeling a lot of fear, or if we're feeling danger, or we're feeling those low energy emotions like guilt or sadness, actually, we're kind of putting a dampener on our vibe. And if you've listened to my theory about laughter and getting your giggle on, you'll know that because laughter is a high energy emotion, not only does it exercise our muscles, it also is a good match for fear and for anger because they're similar vibrations. So we can get off fear into laughter or giggling. We can get off anger into giggling. And you know what? The more laughter you're doing and the less anger you're doing, your liver is going to be very happy. So embrace life in motion. The flow is what moves us towards finding our answers more easily and much faster. Flow is ever present. We make the choice to stop the flow. We make the choice to start the flow. So, if you do one thing as a result of listening to this, please take 10 minutes every single day. Sit quietly and full body breathe. What I mean by that is breathe deeply. Allow the flow of your breath to flow all the way down through your diaphragm, and imagine it flowing all the way down through almost the tips of your toes and all the way back up again. Allow your breath to massage your internal organs. Allow your breath to breathe life energy into your body. Allow your breath to cleanse your core. So, work with your solar plexus. It is your internal tesseract. Embrace it, honour it, love it, and enjoy it. Speak to you soon.